Hey everybody, how are we doing today? Jessica and Andrew, good to see you here. And I'm just here ready to do some review with everybody. And so I told some people, hey, see Stephanie and Caleb and everybody. So I know the beard is gone. What happened? And one of the reasons I shaved it, one, I wasn't used to it. And two, I had oral surgery yesterday morning. So I drove to Kingsport, had some oral surgery, which is a lot of fun. But I seem to be doing all right. And so, yay. I'm on basically yogurt and juice for the next probably week or two. Yay, fun. But surgery went well, really quick and everything. So craziness. Hey, what's up, Mary? Good to see everyone here. But will our data camp expire anything? It will expire. You get like 6 months, but it's super useful. Like I think people don't realize like how much you can learn via data camp. Now, obviously, it's good to have a teacher, which I'm here to teach. But data camp is excellent. So data camp will expire. Data camp will expire. Thank you so much, Caleb. Yeah, the diet's gonna suck. I don't know. I gained a little bit of weight. I gained like 5 pounds during quarantine, and I'm probably gonna lose the 5 pounds back. Oh yeah, web scraping in Python. That is an amazing skill. That is top tier. Like be like, oh, I'm just gonna write this thing that's gonna get all this data for me and do all this right here. Amazing skill. Like those big tubs of Chobani, um, you can pay to extend it, and it's not a bad idea. Like if I was looking to up my skills, I'd probably get a year. I mean, I am looking to up my skills. I never have time, it seems. I'd probably get a year membership to Data Camp. I'm not telling you to do that, but if you're like, I want to go through, and I would probably dedicate like every 2 weeks to trying to complete a course. So you would complete, like 30, or excuse me, I can't do math. 26 courses in a year, 52 weeks in a year, 26 courses. That's correct. So you'd complete like 26 courses. Maybe you could say this year I'm going to complete 30 courses in Data Camp. That'd be amazing. You can put it on your LinkedIn profile. You have a lot of different skills. Learn Python, learn R, learn SQL, learn Tableau. Those are all. And Layla was just here. Layla took BAS 320 well, 320 and 474. She took it in 2018, and she now works at Tableau. So that was really awesome to hear that one of our students who came out of our business analytics undergrad program, she didn't do the master's, which lots of people doing great with the master's. And I do want to say this. So I thought it was disappearing for a second. This goes back here. I don't know. Looks like, it's the shadow. Who knows? But she got a job with Tableau, which I find absolutely amazing. And I encourage you guys to up your skills, because imagine if you want to apply to a company, it's good to have skills in Tableau if you want to work at Tableau. So speaking of skills in R coding, let's talk a little bit about your test that's coming up here. So when it comes to the test, I really think pretty much this file right here, if you understood every bit of code inside of here, which there's a lot going on in here, if you understand all the code inside of here, you're like, Brian, does anybody? Yes. But when you look at it, understanding what's going on with this code is the key to the final. We can grab any sort of model we want here and talk about it. So let's go grab a model like SVM. Does anyone have any topic they want to start out on? Do you know when the take-home might be posted? I hope in the next 3 or 4 days. The graders really have to have everything done by this weekend. I'm trying to remember when grades are due, but mini term comes up really quickly. So I want graders to be done very, very soon. They have a week to grade normally. So it was due Friday night, was it? Man, do you guys ever feel like we just can't keep track of time anymore? Quarantine time's fun. And so I hope they're done in the next day or two. I really hope. And I told them to be nice, but there you go. Do Sunday. Yeah, it was not Friday. So they should hopefully be working on that. They might have their stuff too. So it's a really tough time for graders especially, but fingers crossed. I was like, Friday didn't sound right. Friday, was that when 201 had their project due? I think 201 had their project due on Friday. 201 had their project due, and then you guys had your take-home due on Sunday. Sunday. So it'll be available on Thursday and Friday. And I don't think I said this, but you can have a sheet of paper out also. You can have another blank sheet of paper to do your work on, and then you can have your sheet of paper with your notes on it. You need to handwrite your notes, whatever you want. Handwrite your notes and have a blank sheet of paper and show them off while you're doing your room thing. Like when you're moving around your camera, be like, here's this. You can narrate it if you want, but show it off. Make sure it's very clear what's in your room, and just show the full room, and you should be good to go. I'm not saying cheat. Please do not cheat. But if you all of a sudden are like, you know, like looking to the side or something like that. Like I'm always looking to the side during these videos. We're not gonna be like, oh, they cheated, they looked to the side. But if during the thing you're like looking to the side a little bit and we see your eyes moving, and then you like look back and then you look to the side again, and maybe we like, I don't know. There's things that start to look a little bit funny when we're watching a video. So please don't cheat. We don't all of a sudden. I didn't do a bonus this semester, Andrew, and I'll tell you why. Because I think we're going to be super, 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 super nice with grades. I'm not saying we're going to give everyone A's. Obviously not. But I didn't do a bonus this semester just because I was like, let's just be as nice as possible. Because when it comes down to final grades, we're going to try to, you know, obviously if you're at like a 91, I'm probably going to get you a 92. Like, we're going to be a lot nicer with grades. So realize that we do have this benefit of the doubt that we're being like, okay, let's try to be really nice with grades. And that's what I've been telling the graders. I'm like, don't go too hard on them. You know, I realize it's hard to be at home. A lot of true false, a lot of multiple choice, a lot of numeric entry. So basically, true falses, multiple choice, numeric entries. And today, when we get to the part of this right here, great questions, Caleb, and everything, I'll be going over more of the structure of it. And remember, you do have until Friday, so hopefully you've been studying. But one of the biggest things I wanted to do with the final is like, do you know what you've been learning? Does that make sense what the question is? Do you know what you've been learning and how to use it? That's what the final, I think, is really trying to look at. Like, do you know what you've been learning? Like, I mean, every class tries to do that, but do you know what the point of this is? Do you know why we do certain things? Do you know when we use certain things? A lot of the final is like, do you know why you use this, when you use this, how you use this, what this all means? You can use a calculator. Any calculator, TI calculator is fine. So, yep. As long as it's not like your phone or any sort of like internet calculator or stuff like that. But you can use a calculator. Yep. Did I say that in the announcement? I thought I did. I thought I said an announcement last night. Things blend together. Telling 201 what to do in 474, sometimes I'm like, wait, which one did I tell who about the what? So, I think I sent you guys that announcement. Any other... Yeah, don't worry, Clay. It's a good question. Someone else was probably wondering it too. I bet someone else was like, wait a minute, he already said that. He told us that. And then they're like, oh yeah, he did. But even I have to think back on it. So good question. What other questions are there? Who has another question? Ask some more questions and I'll start talking about models and everything. Any more questions before we start like talking over some different models? Let's start talking over them a little bit here. Okay. Is there any type of free response? Nah, those are way harder to grade. So I think what's really great about this is that you will pretty much know your grade after everyone turns it in. So we will wait. It's due on Friday. So we'll probably wait till, I want to say midday Saturday. The problem is if someone forgets to take it, has internet issues, please do not wait until Friday night at 10 p.m. to take it. Plan a time that works for you. Maybe it's Friday morning. Maybe it's Thursday evening. Plan a time that works for you that is not like, I'm going to take it Friday at 10 p.m. I mean, if that's the time that works, but I would not suggest that time. What you want is enough time that if your internet goes out, if all of a sudden, you know, your computer breaks, you can contact us and tell us, hey, there's a computer problem. Hey, this happened, and we'll figure out some way to fix it. We'll talk through it. So please contact us with any problem you have. Don't wait until 10 p.m. because that's when things get really crazy. Because then it's like, my computer broke and my internet's out, and you're texting us on your phone or something. So that is my advice to you guys. If I was you, I would probably take it Friday morning. So if I was in the class, I would take it Friday morning at like 11 or 12. I would get up, I'd eat a breakfast, like I'd study Thursday, and then Friday morning it'd be like study, relax, just get myself together, and then boom. It should open at 12 a.m. When will the last two assignments be graded? Are they not graded? Have they not revealed them? I think they are graded. Let me see if they're not revealed. Sorry for the delays on all this. I'll look at that, Caleb, and see if they're revealed. Sorry if they have not revealed them yet. Sometimes the graders forget to do the reveal. Send me an email to remind me and say, hey, Brian, check into that, because sometimes when I'll go back to answering emails after this, and then I don't see or I don't remember, because I'm like, wait a minute, I need the email to remind me to be like, Brian, look to see if those projects are graded, and then I'll do that. And I often don't look at them on this computer, since it is like student stuff. I don't want to ever like have grades on here and grab the wrong window and be like, oh no, that's everyone's grades in the class, and it's like in a video. And so I'm like, just don't pull up grades on this computer. What yours says the instructors are waiting on grades or working on grades too. I think most of them, I can see the workload the TAs have, and I think they've graded at least 2 assignments ago. Sorry they haven't hit publish on it. Some TAs forget to hit publish. They do a great job. I love our TAs, but sometimes they just forget, and then I forget to look to see if they published them, and so it doesn't, you guys don't see your grades. So, any other last questions? Great questions, everybody. Feel free to ask them. It's like office hours again. And I'm thinking about doing a video game stream like this weekend. Just take a break for a moment. So if you guys want to come in here, I might do like a Mario stream. Be so crazy. I'd be happy if we had 20 people watching. But we'll see what happens. I say then like 2 people show up. I'm like, watch Brian play Mario. And everyone's like, yeah. Some people in Twitter are like, yeah, we totally watch that. It was like 5 people. So that means I'll have 4 people. But I don't know. It'd be fun to play some Mario on here. But if those are the main questions, we will start talking about the different models. Because remember, this is the key thing for the exam. And I want to point out something. Is Andrew still here? Andrew, are you still in the chat? I want to show Andrew something, and everyone else too, obviously. Andrew, if you're still here, I want to show you something really cool. So, and I think someone just chat. I'll see if it's Andrew here in a second. So, if Andrew remembers a video a while ago, and I'm going to hopefully remember which video it is, but Andrew was helping with tons of the timestamps. And so what we can actually do is, I know which video it is. It's the 6-hour one. Where's the 6-hour one? So many videos. I thought I saw it. I've lost my mind. It's not an uncommon occurrence for Ryan to lose his mind. Oh, here it is. Found it. Okay. Oh, no. There we go. Okay, can everyone see this right here? You're like, what's so special about this going on right here, Brian? So this is something that Andrew helped out with. Watch this, Andrew. If you go over the timeline, look what you have right here. You have Andrew's timestamps right here, where it's saying what's going on. Literally, when you hover over the timeline, each segment is now timestamped, and you can go to different parts of the video and see what's going on, like Stat Tool 1, Section 2, Stat Tool 1, Section 1. Here's BAS 474. Here's where we're talking about the different things. So you can see this says that we're talking about, there's the beard again. But yeah, I think that's super cool. So you just hover over and it'll tell you what's in the video. Now, of course, I have to add these in. So you see I added them in down here. But this is something I'm going to be working on. I want to put in all the videos from now on. So hopefully it's a thing we have to take time to do. But I think it's well worth it for people to see, like, okay, here's what Brian's covering during this portion of the video. So I think it's really awesome. Yeah. So if anyone came back and watched this, they'd be like, oh, here's when he teaches Section 2, here's when he teaches Section 1. I know YouTube just rolled out this feature. I finally got it on my channel, and I learned how to use it. You have to put a 00 timestamp. So you literally have to put that 00 timestamp because it starts the first bar there. And then you can see right here, when you click this timestamp, it goes to it, but also you're in the middle of that timestamp right there. So I think that is, see, no beard Brian's so much better. You can even tell that my hair is longer, and it's only been like half a month. My gosh, what's going on with this world? Okay, so that's got that. Cool things on YouTube. Thank you, Andrew, and everyone else who's been helping us with timestamps. Always trying to improve this channel. And feel free to click like if you want. You don't have to. We always give a shout out for the likes. Okay, so support vector machine. Support vector machine, we should understand the visuals for it. When it comes to support vector machine, what we're talking about... Oh, we got space pen for so. Does anyone see the 3 points right here that would make the support vector machine? Does anyone see the 3 points that would make the support vector machine? I know it would be hard for you to say that. I'm thinking of more questions I can write. Got to write a few more. Thank you, Tyler. I like that. Do you see the 3 points for the support vector machine? The 3 points that we'd probably use that are the best ones. Let's put in black here. There is the support vector machine right there. Great job on those points, everyone. That is going to create a boundary between the 2 points right there. And we can see this right here, that these are the 3 points that make up the support vector machine right here. Now, what we're going to do is the crazy thing. Like, support vector machine just blows my mind. It's one of my favorite things to talk about just because it's so insane, is that we're going to use this when we have points like this. It usually doesn't look like this visually. Usually it looks like something like this visually. Let's draw what it usually looks like. You have points on a number line like this. And what is the dimension of the current data frame? What is the dimension of the current data frame right here? What is the dimension of the current data frame? What is the dimension of the current data frame? And I'm going to use this video to finalize the test, so keep thinking about this. It is one-dimensional because it's just like numbers on an X number line. So this is a one-dimensional data frame. So what's interesting is we have to take this and we have to bring it to a higher dimension. Now what's weird is, and I love the slides on this, so I'm just replicating slides right now, is what you would see in the second dimension is you would see the data look visually like this. So this is what you would see in the higher dimension. So it's like a projection. I hope that's the right word. I'm thinking of like calculus terms. But in the higher dimension, you no longer see the parabola because you can't even see the parabola in this dimension. But we get here some transformation. We find a transformed value of the x's that creates. So you really have right here your original x values right here maybe, and then your x transformed right here. So you have your transformed values of the x's as a new dimension. So it goes from being one-dimensional data where numbers are just on an x value, and then we go to a two-dimensional value where we can create this sort of hyperplane. This right here is a hyperplane. What are we talking about? Support vector machine. So this is a hyperplane right here, which creates separation. And our goal is that everything is properly classified. Now, that might not always happen. We have a cost in which we can talk about how much the errors cost us, often denoted by C or epsilon when we do this in, in linear regression. And we can talk about that in a moment because support vector machine can be used for quantitative. Support vector machine is categorical quantitative. That's a huge thing to know right there. It can be predicting a quantitative Y or a categorical Y. Either or works a little bit differently for quantitative, of course, because it's a different type of variable. But you can still use support vector machine for those. There's three main types of kernels. And what is a kernel? Can anyone define what a kernel is? What is the kernel in the support vector machine? It's basically the way in which we'll try to solve for our what that we're looking for. The kernel is the way we find the what. It's the way we find the new variable. Different kernels find the variable different ways. A linear kernel will find a linear combination of your x's. A polynomial kernel will find a polynomial kernel will find a polynomial combination of your x's. And a radial kernel will use basically, it's called radial Gaussian because it's the normal model. So it's going to use like normal model techniques. It's like an e raised to it's normal stuff. So there are three different ideas of how to solve equations. It's literally like saying, well, I could use a screwdriver on that nail. I could use the back end of a fork on that nail. You just crack it and just turn it in. Or I could use my multi-tool. Now, which one of those do you think would be best? So, say again, kernel is how we find the equation for the transformed x that allows us to create the hyperplane. The kernel is how we find the equation of the transformed x, and we have different choices. And so that's what it is right there. Different equations with different coefficients. Yes, there'll be different equations. It creates different transformed x's. It creates different types of equations, so they'll have different they'll have different successes. Think about this: when you try to screw in a screw with a screwdriver, a fork, or a multi-tool, which of those do you think will work best? Well, really, you probably have two viable choices. I'm just kidding. The screwdriver and the multi-tool. The screwdriver and the multi-tool are probably going to be your two viable choices. The fork, probably not so much. But then we say, okay, if you want to eat dinner, what would you use? Your screwdriver, your multi-tool, or your fork? Well, the multi-tool might have something out, like a spoon or something to eat dinner with, and maybe it has a really cool like spork on it. So maybe the multi-tool would be the best for eating dinner. So what am I kind of talking about here? When you're choosing kernel, we don't really know which is going to be the best. If you knew data super well, maybe you'd have a good idea that maybe the radial basis kernel is going to work really well for this. Or maybe you just have a favorite from doing data a whole bunch. But you oftentimes do all three just to see which one works best. It looks like we have a polynomial kernel right here. It's finding a polynomial combination of the x right here. It's making a parabola of it, so it is. And so that's what we have right here is the polynomial kernel is being used to put this to a higher dimension so it can fit a hyperplane between them. So I think that's what confuses people is that this is creating an extra dimension in the data set for which this dimension will give us separation between the variables. Now, what we want in linear regression, this one's the mind-blowing one. It's all mind-blowing. In regression, you might have a data set like this that is not linear, but some sort of combination of the x's via some sort of kernel could be used so that you could take this data and you have to bring it to a higher dimension here, and somehow in this higher dimension, the data is going to look mostly linear. Now that's amazing that these things can happen, but it'll create through a higher dimension some sort of linear relationship in the data, or as best we can do. I mean, it doesn't always have to work. Sometimes you're like, well, that didn't make a good model. That didn't find anything that was linear, but it'll see if there's any way to find it, and then we can use this transformed value to create it. It's how in the world do we go from something that's nonlinear to putting it into a higher dimension that creates the linearity of it? Well, how do we do that? Through the kernel. Awesome. So you're going to take two-dimensional data and put it to third dimension with a transformation of the x's, and that will create some sort of linear relationship that we have in the data. And if we get that, we've done it. We've created a linear model using support vector machine. Blows my mind. So I think this right here is a decent review of support vector machine. The code for it's not too crazy. We'll go look at some code on it real quick. So the code on it, if you look, you've got a parameter grid right here. So we've got our parameter grid. We're using a polynomial right here, and we've got the scale and the cost, so the different tuning parameters for it. And then we go right in here to we're predicting meet weight, data equals train, method support vector machine polynomial. All this, let's make this look a little bit nicer. Oh no, what happened? Oh, it's got the hashtags. I hate the hashtags. Go away, hashtags. And now let's fix it. Okay, good. And I'll show some output here too. Let's look at some output because that's going to be a big thing. That already has a space there. Okay. I like my code to look like this. I think it's a lot easier to read. And do we have meet weight loaded in? We probably don't. Let's load in. Results are there, but why not? It's EX data train. We'll just do this. It's EX3 abalone, I think. Library reg class. There we go. Data EX3 abalone. And then we'll grab this. You know what I should do? This is so key. But we really need to make a train. So we really need, I already have a train in here, but not the one I need probably. So capitalized. So we need a train. So we have to go here. We have to go to sample. We're going to sample 1 through the number of rows in EX3 abalone. And this just gives you the sample right here. That's just all the numbers. We don't want all the numbers. We want number of rows times EX3 abalone. And we want to take, let's take 60%. I'm going to do that kind of train. And so that's the train rows, but that's train. I want to be train rows. Cool. That's that. And then we go here to train. And then we go to EX3 abalone. Go inside of it. Train.rows, comma, got it. Oops. There we go, that. Go here, go hold out. Got that. Put away the minus. Drop it in, run it, run it. What's it saying? Error, and we might not have a comma. It got real mad at us. Set seed not found. Oh, it has a seed. Oh, set seed. Sure. Cool. Could not find train. Oh, haha. Who can tell me what code to run right now? It can't find train. I'm stuck. It can't find train. Always look to your errors to see what they're doing, because they'll give you hints. Fit control not found. Okay, we need a fit control. So let's see. Brian should know his fit control from. So we're predicting meat weight right now, which is quantitative. So we should just be able to do CV. I always copy paste my fit control, but I'm going to try to write it out for once. So let's not copy paste for once. So we need to call it fit control right here. There's a copy paste for you. So fit control, you know what? I'm going to cheat. Just so we can get it right. So here's the fit control right here. Train control. We'll use this right. Boop. So much easier. And then let's go back down to it. That's probably going to be a long way. Support vector machine or ex3 abalone. There we go. Oh, it's already used there. And here we are. So let's go to our fit control. There it is right there. Did I just delete something? I think I did. Maybe not. Oh, there it is. Cool. And there it is there. Okay, now it worked. We got it. We now have it running. Okay. What is the importance of this code right here? This is going to take all of my variables and turn them into what's. I say this all the time. I have to remember to put these things on the test because I say them all the time. They should be obvious. What is the point of that code right there? Z-scores. It turns them all into Z-scores. It gives them all equal opportunity, turns them all into Z-scores. We're probably going to get different results than the support vector machine polynomial shown on the screen right there. But then let's talk about the results from the support vector machine polynomial. Knowing how to read output is important for the test. There is output on the test. So that turns the things into Z-scores right there. Fit control controls the what portion of the data. The fit control controls the what portion of the data while we're doing this right here. The fit control controls the what portion of the data. The fit control, which is actually where all of these come from. These come from the fit control right here. They all come from the what? They all come from the what? The fit control all comes from the what? What portion of the data is fit control about? Yep, cross-validation. Yep, and not the k-means, though. K-means can use cross-validation. K-means in the algorithm uses cross-validation. It's just cross-validation. You're right. It's the cross-validation, which is the validation portion. So k-means is the first time. Great job, Will, there. K-means was the first time we learned about cross-validation, and then we used cross-validation later on. So you're probably thinking, in excellent memory, k-means was the first time we heard of it. So we go, and should be finishing up. Support vector machine always takes a moment. All of a sudden my gum started to hurt. I've done so well. I've taken no medications today. Is anyone else like me that when you get medication or they give you a prescription, you don't fill it? I am so afraid to take stuff like that. Like they're like, here, we'll give you a prescription for pain meds. And I was like, that's all right. They still gave it to me. I should have just said no, just burned it right there. No pain med prescription. I don't know if anyone else is like me. So let's see. It's taken so long to run. What else do we have? One thing I want to point out. Let me go show this right here. One of the great pages, I've sent this to a few people already. Models in R with caret. Okay, cool. I think this page is excellent. And so we're still waiting for the model to run right here. So it's always fun when you're waiting for a model to finish up running. So we did. There's so many options. So, yep. Let's take a look. Wow, there's support vector machine expo string. I don't even know what that is. There's so many things. So hopefully this finishes up here in a second. I do that too. When I got my wisdom teeth, I didn't even want to take any of those pills. Yeah. Hey, you're welcome, Tracy. So good to see you. Thanks for swinging by. We're talking about, these are all the different ways we can do basic like regression and stuff now. There's so many things, Tracy, in 474. This is the upper level class. And we're still running our model right here. Oh, it worked. We're just trying to, here, Tracy, if you're still here, are you ready? I'm going to ask Tracy a question. 201's going to get asked a question. So, Tracy, are you still here? Are you still here, Tracy? I hope. We are trying right now to predict the weight, like the weight of these sea creatures. Do you see right here that we're trying to predict their meat weight? So think about when you go to like a fish market and you talk about how much meat you can get off these fish. Have you ever seen R squared before, and could you interpret it? So we have here in 474 R squared. So you might know it. It'd be blank percent of the variation in meat weight is explained by this model we just made. So we don't really talk about R squared too much in this class, but about 92% of the variation in the meat weight that we get off these fish is explained by the variables in the model. We can take a look at it. It looks just like an Excel spreadsheet. So it's like the diameter of the fish, the height of the fish. You're right. And so the R squared is still being used right here with all these variables. We can explain the meat weight. So we can figure out how much meat is on the fish by all the other variables we have in the model. Now, so everyone tell Tracy, in this class, what do we usually look at to see how well a model is doing? So what would you look at in this class to see how well the model is doing? Does anyone know? What would you look at in this class to see how well the model is doing? Which one of these would you look at? Like, watch this. If we take the results right here, and we're just going to save the results into something called results. Matthew, you're right. The RMSE, excellent job, Matthew. Great job. RMSE, you're right. So if you notice right here, the one with the lowest RMSE is going to be the best, and that's why 20 is the best. I was able to easily sort this right here and find the lowest RMSE, and the lowest RMSE is for this model with the degree, scale, and C of the following, the cost right there. And so you'll notice it has 20 for its model number, which is the 20th model we tried. That's all that means. And it has the lowest RMSE, which is reported right here. This is the one we would pick. It also probably has one of the highest R squareds. Kind of makes logical sense that if it does the best. And what do I mean right here? What is the RMSE? Can anyone tell me in the chat what the RMSE is? It's the what something the model makes. The starts with a T and then M. Almost a TW, but not TW, but TM. So kind of the generalization error, and that would work right there, Caleb. It's the typical miss the model makes, and it's also going to be typical miss. You're right, typical miss the model makes. Also, everything right here is the model, how it does on the validation data. So is it the difference between the 95 and the R squared? No, it's a great guess right there, Tracy. The RMSE stands for root mean squared error. So I'll do one more thing right here real quick. So it's important to know it's root mean square error, especially for the class. Watch this. We can predict on the new data, on the holdout. Holdout is data our model is not tried. And I forgot to put the model name in here. So we have a support vector machine making predictions. These are all y hats. So I'm just going to call this right here y hat. And these are the predicteds. And then these are going to be the actuals. So the actual are going to be on the holdout, $, meat weight. And Tracy, can you tell me what actual minus predicted is equal to? We'll actually call this predicted. And we'll call this actual. So what is actual minus predicted to? What is that equal to? Those are all equal to what's now? Because this is actually how we get the RMSE. It's this part of it right here. The root mean square error, who knows what this is equal to? If you're not maxed out, I'll give you max out extra credit for this. That E right there of the RMSE is actually a what? It's called error residual. So this is just the residual right here. And think about this. We could call this error. I think I can store it as E. You know what we can do to E? We can square E. And we can take the mean of it. And then we can take the root of it. So there is the root mean square error, but that's on the holdout. It's very similar, which is good. But if you notice, I now have the root mean squared error, which is very similar. But then I want to point this out to 474 especially. Why are these two not identical? This one was computed for the what portion of the data. This one right here, Brian computed for the what portion of the data. Why are these two not identical? And this is a very important thing for model building. Brian did the second one based on the what, but this one is created from the what. And this is something, Tracy, that would be wild to teach. Yeah, that is a pretty good model. That is a pretty good model, and we'll say why. We can look at how much bigger it is. So this one right here this is the actual generalization error. So, oops, computer, pause for a second. Come on, computer. This is the estimated, what am I doing? This is the RMSE holdout. Let's put that on it. That's the RMSE holdout. So that's the RMSE holdout. And you guys are probably saying it. Be careful, Caleb, you're so close. This one, that's the RMSE validation. So this one right here was the validation, and our model's made on the training data, but then the estimate of how it's done. So this is the estimate. These are all estimates of how the model will do, and they're all created from the validation. So this is the RMSE validation, and it's our estimate of how it'll do. Estimates are from validation. And so we get an estimate. We don't really care about how it was created on the data it worked from. We want to see an estimate of how it'll do. So, and as Andrew pointed out, this model does very well. This model's awesome. Because if we take and look at the ratio of our RMSE holdout to our RMSE validation, our RMSE holdout's only about 5% bigger, which is not that big of a jump. And you saw that earlier when you saw what the RMSE holdout was. The RMSE holdout is 0.0317, and that's not more than 10% bigger than this. You do expect it to work worse on the holdout. Holdout is where you expect the model to work the worst because it's brand new data the model's never seen. The model is created from the training. It's tested on, I shouldn't say tested. We get an estimate of how it'll work on the validation, and then we test it out on the holdout. So the validation right here is an estimate of how it'll work, but the validation is also in the training. Validation and training are part of each other through k-fold cross-validation. High R-squared and low RMSE, you're right. Oh, yeah, and the standard deviations. Very good, Andrew. I was going to go to some new output, but this output right here is also still important. What would you call this in your estimate of your RMSE? What would you call this RMSE standard deviation in your estimate of the RMSE? What would you call it? What would you call it? It's your what of the RMSE? Because you have your estimate of the RMSE, and then your standard deviation in it, uncertainty in the RMSE. You're right. Because you think the RMSE is this, but you could be off by about this amount. Now, if we were to make another model here, which we can do very easily, we should be able to go. We'll just go to another bit of output. Let's just grab it right here, or is it not in here? Here's support vector machine linear. So let's do a support vector machine linear. Here's the expand grid, and I'll just change it to linear. So we've got right there. And let's go back to here. Let's throw in a support vector machine linear. So there's our new parameter grid, and it's just going to be linear. And I think we'll be good to go. Yep, we're good to go. Oh, no, I stored it in poly. Okay, we're going to have to remember the poly results. So here's just the linear. I'm overwriting my poly. Can I stop it? It might have messed up my results. Let's try. Okay. So we're going to call this linear now. Okay. So I'm not overwriting my model more. Goes over 2-1. Great job, Tracy. They are very smart. They're doing a great job. So here is the linear model. And we can do the radial too. And linear is done. Okay. So now we're going to look at our linear results. So we just go here and we change everything to linear. And we should be good. And where did we get our... Do we remove it? There's the results. Oh, we can look at the hard way. Cool. So here's the linear results. And, ooh, oh my gosh. Oh, wait. Oh, it's better? I thought it was worse, but it is better. Wait a minute. Here's the best one. Its RMSE is pretty... Do I still have the other one? Let's see if I still have the other one. Might have overwritten it. Support vector machine results 2. Let's call this one 2. Let's call this one 1. And support vector machine poly. And once we get this right here, they're different lengths, so there go, results. Okay, so here's results 1, and we still have it. Here's the RMSE. The lowest RMSE we got was 0.0296. And over here, the lowest RMSE we got was 0.0296. What do you guys think? The RMSE standard deviation is probably going to tell us that they're identical or very similar. So it's really a toss-up between the two right now. There's no model that's beating it out. So there's really nothing amazing about this right here. Like support vector machine linear and polynomial are doing about the same thing. So I'm between the two. I want to point this out. You say, what are we doing right now? Let's take a look. We want to look at our best results, and let's say this is our best result right here. All models, I know this is not our best result, it's just us using one that could be the best result. Any model within how many standard deviations would be identical to this model right here? Any model within how many standard deviations? You guys got it, it's 1. So we take the RMSE standard, we add to it 1 RMSE standard deviation, and then, did I get the right number? There's something weird about that number. Ours wasn't that big. That is not the right RMSE standard deviation. I wonder, I don't like that one. Let me look at it and I'll show you. So when you look right here, let's go grab the results. So I'm always afraid I'm gonna make a mistake. Where is it? Best tune. Here we go, grab Israel. Let me look at our results. Sure, we didn't do the radial yet. Here's our results right here. We need to go within 1 standard deviation of it. And we should maybe, you know what we might be able to do? I wonder. Yeah, you can. That's what I thought you could do. So you can go RMSE plus RMSE standard deviation. There we go. It's a really long, horrible code that I don't like the way it looks. We might be able to do this. Yep, we can do that. Looks better now. So all I'm doing, if you look at my code I've written, is taking the RMSE from the vector that I've created, because it's just a vector, so I can call it by name inside of there, and I'm adding to it 1 standard deviation. So, and I thought, maybe the numbers were right, but I like this better. So all you're doing is taking 1 RMSE and adding to it, or taking the RMSE and adding to it 1 standard deviation. So great job there, Joelle and Will and everybody. But anything within 1 standard deviation would be identical. So when I look at my other models right here, like if we look at the RMSEs of these models, so if we have our linear model, our best linear model RMSE, and our best, let's see, SVM polynomial, and when you compare these, they're virtually identical, because any model, we should probably take the larger of the 2 standard deviations. Okay, if you want to write that code, it would be, let's go here and go max of this, or so, and then we have here the linear, so we need the polynomial. There we go. So now I want you to look at what my code is doing. This is why I always suggest coding stuff out. But you see how I'm taking the linear model, and then I'm taking here, and I guess we could take the min. You could write a bunch of code with this. But this is why we do code. Just makes life easier. Just have it figure out for you. Any model that is within this is the same as the linear model. Any polynomial model. And our polynomial is this result here. So obviously, and it actually does better. But then we could test the polynomial model to see if the linear model is within its range. And it's going to be because, so the linear model is within the polynomial range. What am I doing? I'm taking the larger of the 2 standard deviations right here between the 2 models and adding it to it. Oh, good. Awesome. So good to see you, Jake. You're welcome, Jake. We're just having some fun coding away, so thank you so much. You guys are so positive. It's so awesome. Yeah. That's so great. I love seeing people swing by. Let's make Jake a moderator. Add moderator, Jake. Cool. So does everyone understand what I've done with this code? And what model do you guys want to talk about next? What model do you want to talk about next? We definitely didn't go too hard on neural nets. We definitely, I'm trying to think, like partition models might be pretty good. If you guys want to do partition models. Partition models, random forests. Random forests. Let's talk about that complexity parameter a little bit. Trees and forests, definitely. Let's hop back over here. So random forests can be used for what kinds of variables? Random forests can be used for categorical or quantitative wise. Sometimes they're called partition models or regression trees. Like, just partition models can be used for both. So, like, I think sometimes call them decision trees or regression trees. But categorical data, meaning like if we're predicting if someone's going to buy an item, or quantitative data, like how much are they going to spend at our store. So categorical data or quantitative data can be the y variable of interest that we are trying to predict. And so when you think about a partition model right here, we've got the basics. We've got here a random forest, and a random forest just looks like a random forest. What am I doing? We got here to start just a tree-based model. Tree. So there's just a tree right there. We got here a random forest. And random forest is going to grow all these trees out. Random forest is going to use, especially a few tuning parameters right here. We've got a few. Let's put tuning parameters up here. We've got CP. We've got mtry. For these, we only have CP and mtry. Well, let me. This one has CP. This one has mtry. And going down further, we have boosted. And this is trees learning from trees. So we have trees learning from trees right here. This one has things like shrinkage, interaction depth, what else? It's got min observations in node. Stuff like that. So make sure to look back on the list. And once again, what I really like is if you want to look at what everything has, once again, I've got a cheat sheet here. You can just go right here and do like, so we want to look at boosted trees. So here we go, number of trees, max tree depth, which is your interaction depth, learning rate, which is your shrinkage. So this is shrinkage right here, the learning rate. Max tree depth is your interaction right here. Number of trees, that's like iterations. So they're calling it, but that's not interaction depth. And so you can look at another boosted model right here. Number of boosted iterations, so that's number of trees. ASC prune, I've never done an ASC prune, so I'm not too sure on that one. Apparently I should look at it because ASC prune is being used a few times. So many different boosted trees right here. And we see iterations, general tree, number of boosted iterations. So we see, and I think we've already flipped around. So we see right here, and let's go to XG boost. Do we have XG boost on this one? XG boost. There we go, extreme gradient boosting. This is where it gets crazy right here. So loss reduction, how much you're going to lose between each iteration. Subsample percentage. Hate to say I don't even know what that is, but there's so many parameters. Will there be a lot about tuning? There'll be some, but not a ton. Remember, you get your cheat sheet. It'd probably be good to write down for each one. I'd go to the slides and write down what the tuning parameters are. Like CP is a very important one. What does CP control for the tree? What does CP control for the tree? CP controls, it's called complexity parameter, and it controls how much you need to gain before the tree makes a split. So it's the complexity parameter going from 0 to 1 will control the amount the tree needs to either split things apart, or, great job Lillian right there, or the decrease to the RMSE of the tree. Why would a tree care about a Gini coefficient? Why would a tree care about a Gini coefficient? Why would the tree care about the Gini coefficient? The biggest thing about this test I want to stress, that at least the way I've been writing it so far, is like knowing what models to use and when. These are key questions. Why would a tree use a Gini coefficient? Gini is kind of, yes, you could be doing accuracy. Lillian, you're right. And so basically, you could work on the Gini coefficient of a tree, which could be doing accuracy, but Gini coefficient is for categorical. So you're totally right, Lillian, which is you can do accuracy then. So the Gini coefficient, impurity. Gini is a measure of impurity. Will is 100% right. So the Gini coefficient is a measure of impurity in the leaves. And so you can use the Gini coefficient to measure the impurity, and you have a tree splitting on accuracy because it's trying to accurately put things into the right bins. So that is what we do there. And then the other thing we generally measure with trees is what for quantitative models. What do we try to improve for trees for quantitative models, which is what we were kind of just doing a moment ago. So what do we try to do for trees for quantitative models? We try to improve the what for quantitative models, which is kind of weird because you want accuracy to go up. You want this one to go down. What's the one for quantitative models that we generally use? There are other ones. There's things, RMSE, you're right. RMSE. Now there's things like kappa, which I just don't like kappa. Kappa can be used for categorical. I don't use it that much. I just don't think it's easy to interpret. I prefer accuracy or AUC. But Gini is the measure of impurity, and then we look at that and we try to reduce the Gini coefficient, and we look at how impure the leaves are, and that controls the complexity parameter. So real quick, tattoo one question. If P is 0.005, would you reject the null? Definitely. So that is less than 0.05. You would reject the null, definitely reject. But if it is 0.054, then you would not reject, and this is all assuming that alpha is equal to 0.05. If alpha is equal to 0.05, if the p-value is above, fail to reject, and if the p-value is low, reject. Gini coefficient is calculated based on, so we could do some Gini coefficient calculations. It's so funny, I just had a blink back to last semester doing that. So Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient is calculated via the impurity. Now, once again, you guys get to put the formulas on the sheet if you want, but I'm going to try right here and to calculate the Gini coefficient myself. I know some tricks for Gini coefficient, and Gini coefficient has a maximum value. So let's look at this right here. Let's do a practice of doing Gini coefficient. Thank you so much, Rachel. So good to see you right here. And let's try this. You ready? If you have right here a leaf, that in this leaf, you're doing a 3-level classification. And let's look at just one of these leaves right here. Let's look at the impurity of just one spot. Let's come down here and we'll do the 1. And here you have A. This will be an easy one. BB, CC. Okay, so in this leaf, we're doing 3-level classification, which you can do for Gini, but I'm going to go back to a 2-level in a moment. Does that look like a very pure leaf? Yes or no? Does that look like a very pure leaf? Yes or no? So you got 2 A's, 2 B's, and 2 C's in that leaf. Does that look like a very pure leaf? Yes or no? What would a pure leaf look like? That does not. That's actually the least pure leaf possible. And so I know what the Gini for this should be. It should be 0.66. So it should be all one letter. It should be all one group. That's what purity means in this sense. So what you do right here is you do 1 minus, and then you do the amount of B's there are, or A's there are to start. So there's 2 out of 3, and you're going to square this, and then add this to 2 out of, wait, brain is breaking. I don't know how to do math. I know what the answer is, so I'm double checking my work with this. This is 2 out of 6. There we go. Is that 6? The easy math is the hard stuff. There we go. I should be right there. Scare, I saw something. So if you think about this, this is going to be 1236. Has anyone else solved this also out that this is 1236? Does everyone see that this is 1236? Because 2 times 2 is 4. 6 times 6 is 36. So you add up 436 3 times, you get 1236. So we've confirmed that this is 12, and that's actually 1/3. I should have just done 1/3, because 1/3, you could just done 1/3, and it'd be 1/9 plus 1/9 plus 1/9, and then you would have 3/9. So does everyone see that this would equal 2/3, which is equal to what I said, 0.666 right here. Repeating. So this is a very, very impure leaf. But what you have to do if you ever want to do any of these, we can do a second example right here, is you have to take the classes, and if you had something like this, and this one looks a lot more pure. Can anyone calculate the Gini coefficient of this leaf right here? Can you calculate the Gini coefficient? I'm going to try to do it in my head. You guys try to do it and see if you can beat me. So I got it. I think I have it. Tell me if you get it. It's 0.1 something. Somewhere in between. 0.1 and then an in-between number. See if you can do the Gini coefficient and calculate it here. Oh, I messed it up. No, I think I messed it up, Will. I think I made a mistake. I just realized it because I did 20 instead of 25. I'm actually wrong. It's 4, 5, 25th. So is it 20? Wait a minute. Wait. Let me do the math. 4 times 4 is 16, 17. Okay, so I think it's 8 25ths. Wow, I was way off. I just made a mistake in my head. Is it 0.32? I think it's 0.32. Make sure I'm right. Let me check my math. I think it's 0.32. See what you get. I think it's 0.32. Sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't know how to times 5 times 5. I think it was the 4/5 that messed me up because I did 4 times 5. It's 0.32, Matthew? Yep. So the formula for this would be 1 minus there we go. Yep, I did 4 times 5 and I did 20 at first. So I was like something's weird about that. I was like, that's really pure right there. So if you notice, this is it's a little purer than the last one. You can tell by the Gini coefficient. But it was actually less pure than I thought it'd be. But that's the Gini coefficient of that leaf right there, the purity of it. So that's got it. That has it right there. If you have two of them, you can look at the Gini coefficient of the split. So you can if you memorize how the formulas mechanically work and you know some tricks, you can always double check your work. That's what I always try to do when I put these things in my head is I try to remember a trick for how they work. And I knew the first one because I know how it works, that the highest impurity for a 3-level classification should be 0.66, and the highest impurity for a 2-level classification can be 0.5. For a 4-level classification, it would be 0.75. For a 5-level classification, the highest impurity would be 0.8. For a 6-level classification, the highest impurity would be 0.866. And there's a trick to it if you notice. It's always 1 minus like 1/2 or 1 minus 1/3 is the highest impurity it could be. Because when you get the squares of all the other ones, it turns into that formula. So that's a trick I know to check my formula whenever I do it, because I don't do this all the time. I know Gini coefficient is impurity. I don't have to calculate it by hand because the software does that. But I should know, and if I have the formula, which you guys can always write down to use for the test, you can solve it out. So if you had something like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, we don't want to deal with sevens. Sevens are no fun. 0.1428. That's not a fun decimal. So, what is the Gini coefficient of the first of leaf 1? What is the Gini coefficient of leaf 2? What is the Gini coefficient of the split? So, what is the Gini coefficient of the split? Does anybody know? So, what do we see right here? Well, the Gini coefficient of the first one might be, I think it's a little bit better. We go right here, we go 1 minus 1/3 squared plus 2/3. There we go. So that's 0.4444. There we go. So that equals 0.4444 repeating. Because it's 4/9, is it? Yep, that's 4/9. So 4 repeating. And then this one right here would be 1 minus, that's 5, and there go 5/8 plus 3/8. And so that's 9, that's 25, 9, 25 or 34, 62. So it'd be 62 minus 34. So it'd be 28. 28. Wait a minute. What am I doing? Wait a minute. Oh, it's going to be like, it can't be that. 8 times 8 is 64. Is my brain breaking? It is 64. 5 times 5 is 25. 34. Wow, it's pretty bad. It's 30, isn't it? So it's equals 30 over 64. So what you got right there? Yeah, 30 over 64. Nice job, Will, right there. Excellent work. 0.46875. Yeah, I guess it's one away from being 50-50. If this were to be a B, it'd be 50-50. If this were to be a B here, this would be 50-50. So they're both pretty bad. They're both pretty bad in purity. Like, they've got pretty high impurity. This is not good. They're not very pure. It is one away from being perfect, but with such a small sample size, it's, yeah. Like the first one, leaf A. So now what we do to get the Gini of the split is we have to do the following. You have to take this right here and this right here and multiply them by their sample sizes. So you do 3 times plus 8 times and then divide by 11. All you're doing is a weighted average right here. Does that make sense? That this is just a weighted average. To figure out the impurity of the split, it's literally just a weighted average. Why are we timesing this by 3? Because there's only 3 observations with that. Why are we timesing this by 8? Well, because there's 8 observations with this. And then we add them. Then we divide by the total. I totally messed it up. 8 times 0.4875 equals that, plus this equals that, divide by 11, and we get that. And you notice it is closer to the one with 8 observations, but that would be the Gini of the split there. So the impurity of the split is this. And the goal is that it reduces the impurity of the original data. So our goal is that there's a drop to the overall impurity of the original data, which maybe it was like a 50-50 split before. So it would have to, I don't think it would make this split. We could look at what it originally was. I'd have to write what the original data was to see what it was, but I don't know. I'd have to make it up. It would have to, the original data would have to be like, so there's, well, we see what it is. We already know what it is. It's AAA 1 2 5 1 2 3 4 5, and then 1 2 3. And maybe that split made it worse. Like, I wonder if this split is even logical. There's 11 observations. So 11 times 11 is 121, I believe, right? That's not right. No, it's 121. It is. And then times this times 6 is 36 and 24. So, no, 36 and 16. So that's 52. So 121 minus 52. And that'd be 69 divided by 121. Oh, that doesn't seem right. Something seems off right here. So what is going on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, it's 49. So sorry, I'm doing this one too quick. That's 49 squared. That's 16 squared. And that's 121. And then we subtract them. I'm just doing quickly in my head and I'm making mistakes. So 65. So 121 minus 65 is 56. 56 divided by 121 is this. And overall, I can't remember what our impurity was afterwards, but probably didn't beat it. What do we use the Gini coefficient for? The Gini coefficient for is to tell us the impurity of the splits. So if the Gini goes down by making the split, it will happen, or is that where the CP comes in? The CP comes in. The CP tells us how much we need to reduce the Gini by. So when we have a higher CP, we need a larger reduction of Gini coefficient. Lower CPs allow for bigger trees. So when CP goes lower, tree can get bigger. Does that make sense? Because the CP is how much do we need the tree to reduce the Gini coefficient. The CP is how much do we need the tree to reduce the Gini coefficient or reduce the RMSE. So we want Gini coefficient to go down because it's impurity. And if we put the Gini coefficient if we put the CP very high, then the tree will require the Gini coefficient to go down by a lot. But if we put the Gini coefficient very low, then the tree will split a lot more because it will split when it can only do little tiny reductions. Does that make sense there, Andrew? So CP controls how much of a return we need. And you wouldn't want your CP to be 0 because it would be overfit. Yep. When CP is really low, the tree is likely to overfit. So the lower the CP, the more likely the tree is to overfit. If the CP is very high, you'll get something close to the Watt model. If the CP is very high, you'll get something very close to the Watt model. If the CP is very, very high, you'll get something close to the Watt model. Because then the tree won't split. Maybe not even at all. The naive, you're right, Caleb. The higher the CP, the more likely it is that you'll get something closer to the naive. And the lower CP, the more the tree will split, because you're saying this is the amount of return I need. It's like saying I will continue to play video games as long as I can make 1 penny a day. So imagine if I was like an online gamer and I said I'll continue to play video games as long as I can make 1 penny a day. I would probably continue for a long time. Hopefully I'd be making that penny. But what if I put the CP very high and said I'll continue to play video games as long as I can make $5,000 a day, which would be ridiculous. I'd be like one of those Tifu and all them out there. So is that how you say his name? I think so. There's like so many names out there. Trying to be a boomer right now. But if you put the CP very high, took this class 7 years ago at Pephead Hands. Oh, that's so awesome, Beekeeper. You'll have to tell us about that. Tell us what'd you code in. Feel free to say hey. Glad to have you here. You're always free to check out what we're doing and say hey. We code in R, and I'm taking questions from the students right now. But we were just doing support vector machine linear and support vector machine polynomial, all that good stuff. But we were talking about the CP, and the CP is literally the amount you need of return for your tree to split. We have 2 ways we use CP, and we'll pull here a random forest right now. So, whoops, do we not have random forest in here? So let's go. Oh, I've got selected data. Trying to hop right to where the notes. There it is. Here's the random forest. So here's the random forest right here. We can see the code. We'll talk more about what it does, but we were just talking about what it does a moment ago. And I'm going to make the code look a little bit nicer. Does everyone see right here what the CV means? Let's review. What does the CV mean in this code? Does anyone know what the CV means? That should be a very, very quick and easy question that everyone knows instantaneously. What does the CV mean? So glad you stumbled upon our channel right there. What does the CV mean? Who knows what CV means? Cross-validation, you're exactly right. That's going to do k-fold cross-validation right here. So the k-fold cross-validation right here, it's going to use 5 k-fold cross-validations. You're right, that is the validation portion. So all of this right here, oh, under the 201 channel. You're like, wait a minute here. Awesome. Well, Beekeeper, we're so glad to have you. I just did 201 review, but looks like you already learned it. This is 474 data mining. So we're doing the more advanced stuff right now, but you're free to check it out. This is like the really cool and crazy stuff where we make a lot of different models. Like this could also be on the test too. This right here, ooh, that's pretty interesting output. So if you notice right here, we have the RMSE. Whoa. Look at this right here. The RMSE really goes down. With the cost parameter close to 0, we get really bad RMSEs. And then as you increase it, I mean, we really can't see the differences in these models. It's just that with a cost parameter close to 0, it's a horrible, horrible model. Let's look at the other one. And here's our other models. Let's take a look at them, see how they look. Little bit of variation here with the degree. And once again, we really want to, well, we see the different costs. Wow, it looks so different. And our best models are over here, it looks like. I think this is the one we select as best, but they're also similar. So we have the models we looked at so far. And once again, how would you know your best model in this output? How in the world would you know your best model from this output? What are you going to look at to find your best model right here? If you look, do you remember that CV we just saw a second here, cross-validation? That tells you that this is the validation portion. So this was done, your estimated generalization error. This is not the generalization error. This is your estimated generalization error. What is our best model and why? It's hard to tell in the output. This is not a really good way to look at it. Lowest RMSE, that's all you're looking at. So when I look at this, I see maybe that's really good or that's really good. Obviously not these. These are very bad. RMSE is just typical miss the model makes when predicting new, RMSE is whatever data is predicting, but the typical miss the model makes in this instance on the validation portion of the data. So I would not choose those ones with very high RMSEs. We were talking about random forest right here. Here's a random forest right here. Are we predicting, let's do meat weight. Meat weight. Nope. You know what I could do? Do a trick. Attach. EX3 abalone. Oh, I could attach that one. Ooh, this might. It's going to get mad at me. It says they're masked. That's what that is. It says the following are masked. Cool. Well, that's fine. It's going to go inside the train, though. We got it. Random forest. Right thing here. Do we have... We don't have our tune grid yet. We don't have the right tune grid. Here we go. Let's do that. Cool. Model's being made. The model is being constructed as we speak. So let's let the model construct. Let's let it do its thing. It's done its thing. And let's go ahead and plot the random forest right now. So we can plot our forest. And let's take a look at it. And did the forest do better or worse? Worse. Did the forest do better or worse? With what we have right here, did the forest do better or worse? You can see the answer over there. If you remember our CPs from earlier, then, or our RMSEs, I'm talking about CP now. The RMSEs were lower. So this one does not do as well. Sorry, guys. I'm perfectly fine, I swear. So this one does worse, it looks like. I'm going to look at these other CPs. I want to see what's going on with them. I made a vector of M tries. M tries are the number of variables the model uses. So I made a vector of M try 1 through 10. I want a more finer grid than this to look at how it's doing. And I'm going to tell you which model did the best, and then I'm going to look at it compared to the other ones. So let's see what's going on with the data. There were 20 warnings. Did it still create the output? It did. Here we go. There is a different area. Yeah, it didn't beat it. Random forest didn't win out. So the random forest right here is not the best model. How do I know that? Well, you can look at our support vector machines. Our support vector machines were able to just barely go underneath 3. So they're just barely below 3, but the random forest was somewhere in here. The random forest was, it's kind of good. And then you can look at the support vector machine linear. Come on. Oh, what is going on? Invalid index. Support vector machine linear might be also hard to tell, but it also got right to 3, if you remember from the results. I think it was our results number 2. So we can look at the results of that. And support vector machine linear got right below 3, as did support vector machine polynomial, got right below 3. And we can go here and save the results from our forest. So let's go down here, the results. Here's the results, but we can just type that. We can go to results 3 and go to forest and go to results. And results 3 are now here. And here's our RMSEs. And if you notice, they're not nearly as good. So when looking at all those plots, we're trying to determine the best model. We look and see which RMSE is lowest. Yes, when the data is what? When the data is what, you want the RMSE to be low. When the Y variable is what, you want the RMSE to be low. So don't always look for the lowest. That's a huge landfall, like a landmine right there. You look for the lowest when it's RMSE because that's typical miss the model makes. And RMSE is when the data is quantitative. You're right, Matthew. Nice job. Let me make you a mod here, Matthew. You're very correct. When it's quantitative, you'll be looking at the RMSE. And yes, so we look for the lowest RMSE here. Now we could change this, and we should be able to do it pretty quickly. If we were to change this should work. Well, let's see. Trying to think of a fun variable to predict. Let me do gender again. I think I do gender all the time. So let's pull up sample, and there we go. Where's my data I created before? So many codes. Did I not write it that way? I thought I wrote it. We can change it. And if it is categorical, do we look at ROC and AUC? Yep. A microbiologist in a QA, QC at a brewery. So this is not quite my area. Oh boy, you're doing class as much as I did, though. Oh, that's awesome. Really enjoy math stats. Good luck with the finals, random people. Thank you so much, the Beekeeper. Are you allowed to tell us where you're doing QA at the brewery? You want to give your brewery a shout out? You can if you want. I mean, and we really appreciate you just swinging by to say, hey. We love helping out. We love teaching people statistics. If I'm acting a little bit weird, I just got oral surgery yesterday. Fun stuff. Just telling everyone that. So, yeah, that sounds like a cool job right there. You know, one of our biggest things, maybe you know this story in statistics, but we have a very famous person in stats, William Gossett, who at Guinness Beer. William Gossett was a chief brewer at Guinness Beer. So I'm going to pull up this picture right here where it says Chief Brewer William Gossett, Guinness Beer. But he made the tea distribution. And so we've had PhD students come by. We have Calzone Tyrone. Everyone knows Calzone Tyrone now. But this is at the Guinness Brewery right here. William Gossett, Chief Brewer at Guinness Beer, just Chief Brewer, inventor of the tea distribution, chemist, and statistician. So really awesome stuff right there. So Columbus, Ohio now. Cool. We'll have to check out some of that Columbus, Ohio beer. Have you ever been to, this is my last shout out to Beekeeper, you can stay as long as you want, Beekeeper, of course. Have you ever been to Jungle Gyms? Do you know Jungle Gyms? That's in, it's in Ohio, right? and it's in I can't think of the city it's in. Is it in Cincinnati? Have you been to Jungle Gyms? I think we talked about it in class this semester. That place is so amazing. Jungle Gyms is like it's like a food store that's a amusement park. I mean, not really an amusement park, but it's so cool. They have anything you want at Jungle Gyms. So check out Jungle Gyms if you're ever in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio. Check out some of their beer right there. A lot of good breweries. We need one suggestion of you for a beer for everyone who's haven't been what's on the list for sure. Okay, this is your last question. I know I said last question before. And then 474, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Sorry, I've been streaming for like 3-4 hours a day, so I'm kind of out of it. What is a beer suggestion you would have for us? Like a Hefeweizen or like Seven Sun. Oh, that's cool. I think I've heard of that. So everyone check that out. Yeah, that's when we're talking about clustering. Yeah, talking about marketing to customers. So everyone check out Seventh Sun Brewing right there. If you got some time, if you see that beer, be like, Beekeeper works there. We're going to go check out some of his beer. So shout out to them. But thank you so much. And if you ever have stats questions, feel free to ask. Any type of sour beer such as Goes or Red Flanders. Oh my gosh. Okay. I know someone, my fiance loves sour beer or like sour stuff. So I will check that out. I might see if we can find some Seventh Sun. I might be traveling to Texas. They know what I'm talking about. And maybe Ohio's up. I'll go like this to Texas. So really appreciate it. And if you ever want to talk about or tell us how you use stats or how you see people using stats at the brewery, I imagine you guys probably take data and analyze the data and see, like, do you guys ever chart data and watch how it goes over time and make charts of, the quality of the beer or certain aspects of the beer and look at it over time and like quality control? I imagine, because you do. So I hope. I love hearing how people use stats at their job. It's like, oh, use stats. But we'll see if anyone else has any other questions. I'll probably go for another 15, 20. But you came at the right time. We've been doing a lot of stats and a lot of coding, so my brain's like ready to do it. Andrew, Mary, anyone else? Does anyone else have questions? And maybe you used our channel a while ago. If you used it 7 years ago, that's when I first started it. Started the channel about 6. Has it been 6 years? A while back I used it. Might not have been here when the channel first started. The videos were really bad. They were like, in this server. Hey, what's up, Andrew? Andrew's in 320 this semester, also in 201. Good to see everybody. But we'll see if anyone else has any other questions. We reviewed the other types of models during class. I'm probably going to go soon and finish up the test. But I hit upon some huge concepts today. So the big concepts I hit upon were like when we use holdout, training, and validation, and when we use other things like different types of models. I went through the other ones in class also. Neural nets can be used for quantitative or categorical. Linear can only be used for quantitative. Logistic can only be used for categorical. And how are people feeling about the final? I can't stress enough that the final is basically knowing what the models are and what they do. We've done, how many questions do you think? I think we have like 40 questions, Matthew. Good question, Matthew. I think there's like 40 questions. I think there's like 40. Around that. We went a little short, I think, which I'm okay with. And good luck on that final, Andrew. When is it better to use vanilla and linear regression? So vanilla regression just means no regularization. Regularization, let's talk about that real briefly right here. Great question, Caleb. So regularization, which is pretty crazy concepts right here, is when keep hiccuping. Wait a minute. Yes. So regularization takes into account this right here. What is basically bias in linear regression? What is basically the bias in linear regression? What is basically the bias in linear regression? Does anyone have any idea what basically the bias is? In linear regression, what is basically the bias? The bias is basically the what in linear regression? Any guesses? It's how much you miss by, or how much you typically miss by. A measure of the bias could be the what? Like your typical miss? How much you miss by on average? Like if you took all the errors? The RMSE, you're right. So this is basically a lot of times it can be your sums of squared errors right here. A lot of times we use sums of squared errors. Basically the RMSE, it's basically they're analogous. You can find the RMSE from the sums of squared errors. because the sum of squared errors is almost like the root mean squared error, but they're very similar. Like if your sums of squared error is higher, then your root mean square error would be higher. So you could almost do the formula with this, but it is sums of squared errors technically. So I know I tricked everybody, but I was kind of alluding to it's like how much you miss by. That's the bias. It's how much does the model miss by. Now the variance is based on the parameters in your model. So what do we have right here? Sorry, when I go away from the mic. We have right here your tuning parameter lambda. And then we go to, well, let's do the alpha first. And this would be times the, let's do this, the squares of all the betas. And then this right here would be plus 1 okay. I think it's got the right amount of stuff on it. Okay, so what do we have right here? Sorry for the handwriting. But if you notice right here, the variance relates to the what? The variance relates to the what's of the model. What do you notice is a key component of the variance? What is a key component that is a big part of the variance that making the model look nicer on right here? It's hard to write. The variance is based on the what's in the model. I keep rewriting it. Kind of. Yes and no. Kind of. Well, tuning parameter, the lambda will control how much we account for variance. So the lambda will control how much we weight the variance. So the weight of the variance, I might not have been specific enough. The lambda is how much we put the variance as a part of the model. So if you put lambda to 0, we do not account for variance at all. If you put lambda very high, we only account for variance. Like variance will outweigh bias. So when you look at this, variance is being computed mainly from this right here. The tuning parameter of alpha is the mixing percentage. Alpha can only range between what and what? Alpha can only range between what and what? What are the values alpha can range between? What are the values that alpha can range between? And this is good regularized regression review right here. 0 and 1. Because if it's 1 right here, you're doing completely ridge regression. So if it's 1, this becomes what you're using, and this goes to 0. And then if it's 0, this goes to 0, and this would go to 1. So then you'd be doing lasso. Wait, nope, sorry, ridge. Oh my gosh, why did it jump out of my head? Yes, lasso and ridge. That's right. I don't know why. It's elastic net if they're the two together. This is elastic net regression, but lasso is the absolute value, and ridge are squared. It's not related to that, but just remember that. The squared coefficients are the ridge regression. So you have your ridge regression, you have your lasso, and you're mixing them together. You don't have to mix them. You could use all lasso or all ridge, but you're using a tuning parameter to test out different mixing of the two values. And then you're using a tuning parameter here to say how much are you going to weight the variance. So your two tuning parameters are concerned are how much does the variance play in the model, and then how much do you mix the lasso and the ridge. The alpha will control the lasso ridge mix, and then the lambda controls how much does the variance come into play into making your model. And so the question to start all this was, when is it better to use vanilla and linear regression? So probably, which I wish we had written answers because this would be a great one. Vanilla and linear regression, as long as we're just saying kind of vanilla regression is linear regression, just you're not doing regularizing. When you want something simple, when you want something easy to understand, when you just want to put a line through a data, which people will be like, hey, can you give us a linear model? You're like, yeah, sure, let's just do vanilla regular regression. That's fine. Don't know what accent that was. Well, like in New York, what do you want? I'll give you a pizza with it. Sounds like, okay, boomer. But it's very simple. It's very easy. This gets more complex. Definitely if you're doing predictive analytics, I would go towards elastic net regression. You could still do regular old regression, and you could use, you see how it's doing. It's not going to weight towards the variance. You'd still get an estimate of how it's going to do, but you're not going to account for variance. It could be more likely to overfit. So I'd be more afraid that my non-regularized regression would be overfit than my regularized regression because it's only going to tune on bias. But what you can do is there a way to do regular old regression, by using this formula right here? Is there some way to do just regular old regression using this formula? Using this formula right here, is there some way to do regular old regression? Is there any way to do regular regression using this formula right here? Any ideas? How would you use regular regression with that formula right there? What could you do? You got tuning parameters. How about you just set lambda equal to 0? If lambda is equal to 0, all of that goes away. And then you're just tuning on bias. And if you're just tuning on bias, then you're with Andrew. Nothing wrong with that. But right now, Andrew's models are only tuning on bias. And if you're only tuning on bias, you're just doing regular old vanilla regression. So that's a really good question right there. Vanilla regression is great for a simple, easy model that's easy to understand, runs quickly, especially if you have a big data set. I mean, computers are good enough now, but still bigger and bigger data sets. But I think that I'm probably going to go eat some dinner, some more yogurt. Yay, yogurt, every day yogurt and Bold House juice. But I seem to be healing up well. I'm not in that much pain, so I'm very happy with this. Any last questions? We did a good hour 20-minute review. I think a lot of the lectures, especially the last one, I was going over the different stuff. I'll be finishing up the test here. I'm going to use this review especially to kind of look at some finalizing of questions. So I think the test might be a little short, which isn't bad, but do use as much time as you have. Any other last questions? You're welcome, Caleb. I'm going to definitely look through this review and try to be like, oh, I asked this and I keep saying this. You guys are always free to write a question and send it to me. And I might be like, I could augment that. But so maybe yeah. But I will head off here. Thank you guys so much. So happy to see you. And if you have questions, email me. I'm going to go head off to email. Beekeeper, if you're still here, good having you. Thank you for swinging by. And everyone, Seventh Sun. Let's check it out again. We should go look at that. Seventh Sun Brewing Company. Check them out. We'll see if they got some good beers. They got sour beers, which I'm very interested in. See everybody later. Bye-bye.